I'm always nervous doing Instagram lives. I don't know why. Um, it just feels so overwhelming for me. I'm in Los Angeles currently. I bounce back and forth between Las Vegas, which is my home, and Los Angeles. And yeah, good to be here. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. I'm very excited because Reflections is out, which is a collection of songs that were made during the Smoke and Mirrors era and worked on throughout the years. Some of them earlier, sometimes some of them we worked on even post Smoke and Mirrors, but they're all demos, so none of them are. They're all pretty rough, but listening back to them, I'm very proud of them and how they turned out. I hope you like them as well. I'm gonna add Ben and Wayne here. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Okay.
It's Ben!
Hey, there's my
Sorry,
guy.
I'm so used to talking to my baby. That's just the way I introduce myself when I walk into a room now.
Hey, Ben. What's up, buddy?
It's it's
There we
It's my
Sirman!
boy.
go. Oh, I feel so much more at ease now. I felt so alone. Oh,
What's up, y'all?
okay. Um, we got everybody in. Okay, maybe we start by just kind of talking about the Smoke and Mirrors era. Hello to everyone, by the way, if you're just joining this. This is Dan, Ben, and Wayne from Imagine Dragons, and we're all at home currently off the road, not on tour for a change, which is great. Um, so cool to see all these people from all over the world. We love you, first and foremost. We miss you all. Tour has been fantastic. It's been so fun to see you all over the world. We continue on the tour. It's not over
That's
yet. We head to Europe here soon. When does Europe start, guys? Do you remember the start date?
May 22nd? May 27th.
May 27th. And then we'll be on all across Europe for a few months. Maybe there's still tickets available in some places, so do check that out at imaginedragonsmusic.com. Also, an important date to note, um, we have a movie playing in theaters March 26th and 29th at select locations all over the world. You can go to imaginedragonsmovie.com to see what the nearest location to you is. And we're really excited about that. That we filmed that here in Los Angeles. We did a special show with orchestration, a whole orchestra, and it was done with the incredible composer Inon Zur. Um, and it was just a really magical night. And we filmed that whole night, and that's going to play in theaters. So you can take your family, or go with your friends, or go by yourself. If you're like me, who likes to go to the movie theaters by themselves. And yeah, March 26th and 29th. So really soon, you can get your tickets, imaginedragonsmovie.com. So yeah, let's talk about Smoke and Mirrors. Wayne, Ben, do you guys want to launch into kind of taking us through that era and talk a little bit about Reflections, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just going through like approving those photos, for our posts and stuff, just looking through I mean, it's just so insane. I
Yeah.
mean, we've all aged well. I'm not saying we haven't aged well, but
We've all aged for sure.
we all aged, and we just looked so young, like we were like babies, and
Mhm.
we were just. I just remember that time of like being so optimistic about everything, and also like a little bit scared to do a second album, and so, we had the world on our shoulders a little bit, but we were also like, I don't know, we felt confident too. It was just it was a lot of emotions, and it brought me right back to that time.
Yeah, we just built our own studio. We were getting to like really be, you know, in control with the resources you need to make a proper album like under our fingertips for the first time. And it was, I think, maybe, the most experimental and independent we've perhaps ever been in the studio. And yeah, it's really cool. Like looking back on those pictures and listening to those demos, I think it made me more proud of the whole of what we accomplished with that album than even we were like when we were in it, it just was like so many balls up in the air and so much just trying to learn as we were going and so much experimentation that it was hard to sort of step out of it and look back on it the way we can now and be like, wow, we really, we did something pretty amazing and we really did it pretty much on our own.
Yeah, it's our approach to Smoke and Mirrors was very different than any album. Actually, I think we really locked ourselves into a studio just as the band, and we did a lot of writing there together and creating together in a room, which, as we've reflected on that, no pun intended for reflections. That's the
I,
title of
I,
the B sides. Yeah, and it's so weird to call it a B sides record because that always is such a strange kind of way I mean, it is B sides because those songs were never completed, right? As you listen to the songs, you'll be able to tell like there's distortion. There's some of them are there's no like a lot of them are cut short. A lot of them are mixed horribly or recorded on a laptop microphone, like my vocals. There's a lot of uh, imperfection, but there's something really beautiful about that too. So I mean, it is, B sides. They are song. Oh, man, there's like a lot of those songs that I love more than some of the songs that made the cut for Smoke and Mirrors. And it's not always like songs that make an album aren't always just because they're like the best songs. It's a lot of times it's like what songs go together the best, or maybe there's too many slow songs on this record and we want to add a little more tempo to the record. Like there's a lot that goes into what we decide makes the cut. And we've never had a label who has told us what needs to be on the record or made us go back to the chopping board or might say like that's never been our relationship with Interscope. Interscope's always been cool about letting us do whatever we want. Um so yeah, I mean, long story short, I guess what I'm getting at is the songs that are on Reflections, a lot of them are, I'm just so happy that they're out to the world because a lot of them are songs that I really love and have thought back on fondly for many years and wished that we had released. Um, but yeah, we did create it differently in that we were very, very, like we always create all our records together, but that record in particular was like just the output of young artists who had just had our were thrown into a tornado. Like Night Visions had just blown up and we wanted to do something different. So it was pretty different than Night Visions. I think it's pretty different than all our records, Smoke and Mirrors is, but in a way that's really refreshing to me, that it's grown on me more and more over the years. It also was maybe the most depressed I've been ever in my lifetime while writing that record because I was going through a huge faith crisis um, and kind of documenting that uh, for the world, and which was a very vulnerable, scary process for me as a writer. But it was such a wonderful thing to have bought this house, together in Vegas, and we turned it into a studio, and we just recorded it all in this house in Vegas. And we've actually talked amongst the three of us about doing that again, possibly for this next record, and kind of approaching the next record, whenever that will be, in a similar way, just because it was so wonderful, kind of self-producing, and for better or for worse, there was a lot of uh, yeah, a lot of fat that need probably we would like looking back we would have cut, but that's kind of what makes Smoke and Mirrors a special record.
yeah, when you know, I see them like more as demos and B-sides as well, just because like we're not the kind of band that makes 20 songs and then we pick 10. And then those are, they have your A and your B. It's much more like, no, we wrote 220 songs and these are just the best demos that we had, and so that's always how we've always been. Our, you guys know that we write and write and write for each record, so it wasn't any different for that one. And in particular, uh, listening to "Bet My Life" made me realize that we probably should have just had it years ago and just say, "Boys, you're overthinking this one," and just mix it. But I like the record version too. It's just a different thing. The demo just feels truer to the moment in which it was written. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That song was actually the bane of our existence. Like, Bet My Life, we had just come off Night Visions and we wanted to do something different. But I don't think we actively ever are like, I think we already are so all over the board sonically that it wasn't like we were intentionally like, Bet My Life needs to sound different than Demons or Smoking Me, like, sorry, or Radioactive or It's Time. Like, even It's Time next to Demons are very sonically different songs. Like, Demons is very like influenced by hip hop, and it's more electronic, whereas It's Time was very organic and was like with a mandolin and like almost folky. So I think Bet My Life was a little bit more towards like the It's Time feeling, and that it wanted to just be a folk song kind of, and yet we really overthought it. We dressed it up a million different ways. We ended up bringing in a gospel choir and then we had them sing the whole thing, and then we sampled all these parts and cut it up, and it's when the song comes on, like when Bet My Life comes on, I still love it. Like, I'm not mad at how it turned out. Like the that is cool. Like, there's a cool weird sonic thing going on with sampling and stuff, where it's kind of mixing organic properties with like uh the electronic world, and that's always what dragons are. But it gets messy. It gets messy in a way at sometimes, which is cool, but also I agree with you, Wayne, that the original version of Bet My Life that's on Reflections is a little more intimate. It's just, I like, all it was you sent me guitar, right, playing that hook, and then me just kind of singing on it, and then we went into the studio and like added bass, and we added all these, and then we just, and I wish we would have just stopped there a little bit, like added, brought in Ben, brought in a little bit of live drums, but we didn't, and and that's the beauty of a career, I guess, is you do things and you learn, and we don't play that song live that often, and I think it's not because it doesn't go over well. Like, the crowd always seems to like playing Bet My Life. I think it's because we don't really like to play it that much for whatever reason. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Why don't we play Bet My Life that often? Is
I
it
mean,
because
I think it just comes down to, there's so much music at this point that we have to choose from. And I think that there's a little bit of um, the newest child is always sort of the shiniest thing that we want to feature on our stage. And Bet My Life is a great song, but when we're also excited about the last 10 or 15 songs that we made, it's like there's only so much room for things, and maybe it's time to, reflect, get it a little bit back on that music, on the music from those eras. And yeah, maybe we need to do some, I don't know, some kind of memories tour, or maybe it's time for the Imagine Dragons eras tour.
Mm. Yeah, you know what? You know what's interesting, Ben, that you made me think is that I I think when we do play "Bet My Life" live, we typically have always done it acoustic,
Hmm.
almost like what is the Reflections version of
Yeah.
it, right? We'll go to the B stage, like out in the crowd, and it's just you with like an upright bass, or and Wayne on acoustic guitar, and kind of singing the song in the way that we always had hoped it would have been. And it always is special doing it that way. So maybe we'll bring it back that way. I think just it's there's a lot of songs on Smoke and Mirrors that we really overproduced because we were just young artists together in a room, and we were very influenced at the time by what's the name of that producer, Wayne, that is known for kind of doing like 200 tracks from years and years
Oh,
ago,
Phil
and we did that.
Spector.
Yeah, Spectre. It was kind of this Phil Spector approach where we were literally every track on Smoke and Mirrors was like 200 tracks, right? We were like stacking and stacking and
A lot of
uh,
restarting the computer.
right, yeah, a lot of breaking the computer. But there was so much organic material on Smoke and Mirrors. Like all the sounds you're hearing on Smoke and Mirrors are very, much more organic probably than a lot of the records we've done recently. We really have we over the last few albums, I think we've been really influenced by kind of like Swedish production. One, we've worked with Mattman and Robin a lot, and so we really loved the idea of dialing back and like a minimalistic approach to things, which has been cool and kind of created a different side of Imagine Dragons. And I think with this next record, we will probably do something completely new, just because that's what's fun for us. So we'll probably, we've talked about kind of diving back into the Smoke and Mirrors approach, where it's just kind of us maybe creating. I don't know that this is true or confirmed or not, by the way. We're just kind of brainstorming with you live, I guess. But we've talked about doing that because we're different now. So it won't be what Smoke and Mirrors was because we're different in how we approach things. But something about us being in a home together and coexisting was really beautiful. And I think we're in a really healthy spot now as a band where we could do that and really coexist well, and I think create something great in that way. So that's something we're thinking about. But we're not here to talk about the next record. We're here to talk about Smoke and Mirrors, I guess.
I
We have some,
saw a
yeah,
comment. Someone loved Destroyed. I love that song too. That was one of the ones where Dan, I think, sang into a laptop mic, but
yeah,
it
it kills me to
somehow
listen to.
worked and still sounded kind of cool. But yeah, we never got like a full mix on that, but I still love that song. It's a great one.
I wish we did that one proper. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, I really love this, but God, I hate how my vocal sounds through that laptop, and it's picking up all the room, and there's so much treble that's
Yeah.
like horrible frequencies in my voice on that song. But it is kind of what makes this Reflections album magical, is you're really hearing it really raw, and also some really weird experimental songs. Like I really love Carried Away. I really love the Ghost
Yeah.
Intervention. That's one that I'm always like weird kind of Prince-esque stuff going on that as well. But then it's like heavy and it's weird. Um, Woke. I really love Woke Up This Morning. Like that song is always gets stuck in my head years and years later. Like I'll wake up and be like, Hallelujah, I'm alive. Like something about capturing that simple happiness on that day that I wrote that comes back to me a lot. I know, Ben, do you want to check? I know on our WhatsApp group with Turner, he's has fan questions like that people are submitting right now, and maybe we could tackle a few of those questions.
Let's see. Okay, you're asking me to.
Oh no, I muted myself. Oh wait, I'm trying to mute myself, but it seemed like it muted you. I think because you're looking at WhatsApp, maybe it muted you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Burns and Bestie says A-OK is so cool. Yeah, that's a great one too. I love that.
That was a
I love
fun
that
one.
one. Someone said Monica's
Yeah,
fire.
I don't know how to look at my WhatsApp and look
Mm,
at this at the same time. I need a burner phone.
we can go
Um,
back and forth. Um,
hey
are you looking at WhatsApp when are you
Turner,
looking at comments?
Turner, if you're watching this, if you can screenshot those photos and send them to Mary,
Oh yeah, that's
my beautiful wife Mary, who's sitting just over here, hiding from the camera. Um, but Turner, if you screenshot those and send those to her, uh-oh, I think I'm frozen.
How hard was it to decide which songs to pick for the Reflections out of like the hundreds we made? Was it difficult to choose to narrow down? that's from somebody.
Right. It definitely was hard. I think it's always hard. But it was fun. Like there were a lot of like there was a lot of like us traveling during this tour where Wayne or Ben or I would just pull out our phone and be in a car together, like driving to the show that night, and would just be playing demos uh, and listening to them and being like, "Oh, this was a good one. We should put this one on Reflections or this one." And that's kind of how it happened. It was just really organic, kind of like a lot of conversations and opening up our notes on our phone and just like being like, "Ghost Intervention." Oh yeah, that one's always sat with me well. And then had also just was coding and creating that, we put out a game that I coded that's just a really simple thing. I originally was just making it for my kids, to be honest. Um, where can you play that? I guess if you go to itch.io slash or go to itch.io and look up Imagine Dragons Reflections, and then there's a game that I made in Unity where you're just like a little guy and it's kind of like brick breaker kind of vibes and you have to do it on the rhythm. So yeah, I was just dragging in songs from that era that had tempo that felt fun to kind of play the games to. And then I was like, what songs have lived with me well? And then Wayne and Ben were telling me which songs had lived with them well, and we kind of just put it together really organically. I know I also saw one of the questions here was, what's your favorite song off Reflections? Wayne, Ben, I don't know if you have thoughts on that. I know you said Destroyed was one of your favorites, Wayne. I don't know if there's others that come to mind. Um, I really love Woke. I don't know, that one just really speaks to me. Like, I don't know if it's my favorite. Like, I really love all of the songs on it. But at least yesterday, that song was stuck in my head like all day in a good way. Um,
Molly, or Mall asks, lyrically, or is there anything off of the Reflections album that like stands out to you as like, something really you're going through at that time or something?
mm, gosh. I mean, it's the whole Smoke and Mirrors era, like I said, was a really changing time period for me. I guess I was like 25 or something. How old were we during that time? I guess 25. Because when we released Night Visions, I think I was like 23, 22. So yeah, so Smoke and Mirrors was like 25 to 27. I do remember during that time period being like, damn, so many musicians or artists don't live past 27. I remember being like, feels, not saying I was like suicidal or anything, but I was just really in a dark spot when we were writing that record. And I think a lot of the songs kind of capture that. Uh, like I'm always overly very high, very low person. Like I don't exist in the middle ground very often. Um, and I think that so when you're listening to these demos, there's a lot of high highs, low lows. I think that's very typical with most Dragon stuff. Like for better or for worse, it's always very dramatic, right? It's very like emo in some ways, like in that it's like emotional. It's not like emo sounding very much, I don't think. But it's very yeah. I'm just so yeah. As far as specific lyrics, um, I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to have the lyrics in front of me right now and looking through all of them to be like, ooh, like I definitely was spell checking all the lyrics over the last couple days, and there was definitely some spots where I was like, oof, man, that must have been a rough patch. But it's been such a long time. Like I'm 37 now, I guess. So this was over 10 years ago that these songs were written. Yet I still relate to a lot of the concepts and themes. So yeah, but in a lot of ways you've outgrown those things too. So I don't know. It's a good
Nice.
question. The questions that we have here. Let me look.
Um, Somebody was asking why Reflections as a title. Oh, I seem to freeze up every time I try to
No,
read.
no. You're good. You're good. I hear you.
Yep. Okay.
Why
Yeah, somebody's
reflect?
asking why Reflections as a title. Um, yeah. I mean, I guess it's part of a play on, the title Smoke and Mirrors, but it's also, I mean, it really is us reflecting back on a part of ourselves and a era of the band that we haven't necessarily thought of in a while. We've been so active and so sort of constantly working at the next thing that I think it's rare that we sort of pause, take a breath, step away from what we're currently doing and look back and remember what it was like to be, in a position like that. And especially, Smoke and Mirrors was a really special and really intense time for us because of the success of Night Visions. And there's so many bands that, have one album, one shot at doing something, and then, the second album comes out and there's, not the interest anymore. You sort of accept that your time is over and step aside, move on with your life. And we were trying to just, live up to the shadow of Night Visions while still being authentic to ourselves. It's a feeling that we, we had never had before and we will never have again. It was sort of even more so than, creating our debut album, Night Visions. It was the time that we had to really prove ourselves, not just to ourselves, but to the world. Be like, we're more than just radioactive. We are, you know, we have something to say, and we're going to continue to be creative, and um, we're going to be creative and authentic to ourselves at the same time. And fingers crossed, hope everybody else sees that and connects to that authenticity and that creativity.
Agreed. Something interesting about Smoke and Mirrors that'd be fun to talk about is also Tim Cantor. Um, when we had come home from a long stint of touring for Night Visions. It was like an endless. I don't even remember, but like we'd been gone from home for a long time, and I was returning to see my mom and dad for the first time in months and months, and was at their house, and I sat down with my dad, and we always kind of catch up on like songs that he's been listening to that he loves, and so he'll play me some new artists that he's found, and he has great taste. Like I grew up listening to everything my dad listened to, right? So it was like Harry Nilsson and Paul Simon and Cat Stevens, the Beach Boys, and a lot of like artists of his era, and the Beatles, and um, anyway, but he also is really into new music, so he's always showing me kind of new music. And he had a book of art for Tim Cantor. He had been traveling and somehow come across this book and was really inspired by the art. And so sometimes he'll share things like that with me. And so he sat this book down in front of me that was this big, thick book that Tim Cantor had put out that was, images of his art and his story. And I was really immediately taken by his art. It was kind of gothic, it felt, but also and dark, but also really haunting and beautiful, and also just him, like nobody else looks like Tim's art. Like Tim's art is very identifiable. Um, and then and I remember I immediately, like that day, spoke to Ben and Wayne, and we're like, guys, what do you think of this art? Like, just to ruminate on it for this next record. Like, it was so different than Night Visions, which Night Visions was kind of like this ethereal, um, dark, like the all the floating images of someone ascending into the heavens and things like that. And we wanted to take a different approach. And Tim's art was so different, and yet it spoke in the same way to us. And the cool part is Ben and Wayne, who have very, all of us have very different tastes. So to find something that we all love is always a special moment. And we all loved Tim's art. And then we started to create with his images also at play, which it was just a cool way to create a record when you also have images in your mind. And it was so kind of this Gothica universe that felt very appropriate for Smoke and Mirrors. And then when we met Tim is when it really all came together, because Tim Cantor is one of the most special, beautiful human beings you'll ever meet. Like really, really, sometimes you meet the artist for art that you like, and then it kind of ruins the art, right? Like sometimes you'll meet a musician that you've been listening to their music forever, and oh, thank you, baby. She just brought me all the questions in front of here. That you'll be listen. Yeah, so sometimes you'll meet that artist, and then you don't want to listen to their music anymore, right? Because you're kind of bummed. It's like that whole thing of like never meet your heroes. That certainly has happened, I think, probably to all of us, because we've been fortunate and unfortunate enough to meet a lot of the artists we love, and sometimes you meet the artist and then you love the art more, but that doesn't always happen. For Tim it did, certainly, for all of us, and so working with Tim was amazing. And he did all the artwork. He did the the cover of Smoke and Mirrors, and then he also did a piece of art for each single, each song on the record, which was wild. And then we made shots, the music video with him and his art, and that whole process was amazing. And Tim also did the art for Reflections as well. Sorry, talking too much here. Okay, let me look at some of these questions here. What do you miss most about the Smoke and Mirrors era? Ben, Wayne, what do you guys
Sorry,
think?
you
Um,
said
what do you miss most about the Smoke and Mirrors era? Is one of the fan questions here.
I thought as moody and emo as we might have been on that album, I think that was an amazing tour. That was like the first tour we did, Night Visions. We were we had the mentality of a band that was still doing like tiny clubs. So like anything was great. Like just throw some lights up. Let's see how long this lasts. Maybe it'll end tomorrow, whatever. But Smoke and Mirrors, we were like, okay, let's actually like create a show. We hired Moment Factory, who
Mm-hmm.
does like incredible installations all over the world, and we hired them to do our show. We had these pillars that moved, and that was crazy. And so we really like put a lot of money and time and effort into the show, and the crowds were amazing. Playing those songs, I loved playing Smoke and Mirrors live. I loved playing The Fall. I loved playing Smoke and Mirrors. I loved playing Bet My Life. I loved playing Shots. It was just, and then that with the Night Visions, it just was like, it was a really nice era, I think. And if I could like go back in time and I would just tell old like 10 years ago me just to enjoy it more and stop worrying and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and just like soak in every show. And but I guess that's how everyone is. They just want to go back and just tell the younger version of themselves just to stop taking things so seriously. I wish I would have just enjoyed that more, but I still really loved it. So that's what I miss the most.
Yeah, it was really a time where we were putting the most pressure on ourselves, but it was also the first time that we had the opportunity to sort of make the ideas we were coming up with, blossom into fruition. And um, it was maybe the most raw our expression of our creative ideas has ever been on tour and in the studio. Like it was a time that we were just so deeply passionate about every choice we were making, which, led to drama and tension, and everybody was like, no, this is the way it has to be. This idea must realize. And it ended up being, it was a stressful process, a lot of anxiety, but also led to some of the most beautiful moments in the history of our band and some of the most uh, beautiful art that we've ever made, and some of the most exciting stage design, some of the best music videos. It was just so much passion coming from all of us, and such a struggle to learn how to compromise with each other, and create this cohesive vision of what we wanted to do. It was, I mean, I think that more than any other album, it's where we learned how to work together and where our strengths and weaknesses are as individuals, and how that can support or tear down each other in the band. It was it was a great experiment, and we are fortunate to have survived it.
I agree. Um, Also, wasn't Hopeless Opus during that time period?
Oh, Hopeless
That was a
Opus.
really
Yeah.
fun one to play
So fun.
live.
Yes.
Also, what was the song that we did with Hopeless Opus?
Oh yeah, Polaroid.
Oh yeah, Polaroid. Yeah, that. Then those were both Smoke and Mirrors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really fun album to play live, and you had that incredible guitar solo that it's still to this day is maybe one of my favorite all your solos. Um, Guys, please tell us who's Monica. um, yeah. Okay, we'll keep
Yeah.
going on from that.
Yeah.
Uh, what do you miss most about Smoke and Mirrors era? We did that. Are there any of those songs from Reflections that inspired other released songs? Uh, uh I don't know.
I don't know.
No, nothing
Oh,
that comes to mind.
I saw Ernie asked, "Are there any of these songs?" I'm curious what you guys think. Are there any songs on the Reflections album that you wish we would have switched with them, like, or added to the
Mhm.
actual album? Did we make any like what mistakes did we make as
Mm.
far as like, oh, we should have put that one on?
I think I'm just such a Buddhist mentality now that's just kind of like what it is what it is and what it's supposed to be, that I'm not sure that I can. There's certainly nothing I would exchange, right? Because I feel like Smoke and Mirrors was just what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. When I listen to Reflections right now, it feels like these songs belong together on Reflections. I really don't know that there's something that I'm like, this should have been on Smoke and Mirrors. I don't know. Maybe that's a boring answer, but
No, I think I agree with that.
yeah.
I think that's all the questions I saw. Unless did you guys see any more?
I don't
No.
know. My whole
Yeah.
thing froze up. I haven't been seeing any new
Yeah,
messages for a long time.
my chat froze. Do you see the new messages, Dan?
I do. Yeah, I
Okay,
have some here.
cool.
Um, what is your process after finishing an album? Do you attempt to change creative gears to work towards a new album? Yeah. I don't think we intentionally ever like want like I know that there's some artists that very intentionally are like, we did this and we're never going to do that again, and or we had commercial success and now we're going to make an album that's um not commercially viable, or like we've never had those discussions. We always just create music that we like. And that has always just been what Imagine Dragons is. So whatever place we're in at a certain time, that's what we release. And like I said, we have a label that's always been cool with that. We have never had. I know that there are some artists that are like, my label forced me to do this or told me this. Like our label has always just let us do whatever we wanted to do. And so we've always done what we wanted to do. Um, like I said, for this next record, whenever that will be, I think um, we intentionally are going to do a new approach. um,
Yep.
no,
But I
yeah.
think that when we're shifting gears and trying to do a new approach, it's not because we're like, oh, we need to do something different. It's because we have been, listening to music and creating things, and what we're inspired by and what we have access to has changed as, music in the world changes. It's such a shifting landscape all the time, and we are constantly listening to new artists and things and being inspired by new things and having access to new technology, new methods of production, new access to old methods of production, things like that it's just we're creatives, and we really love the process of creating, and I think we get excited when there's something that we can try that we haven't tried before.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, we got a new synth, we got a tape machine, we heard a new artist, you know we visited a place for the first time and heard a new style of music. It's all those things come into play, and when you have those new influences and you want to play off of them, it's hard to be like, no, let's stay in this track that we've dug ourselves into. It's no, let's keep exploring, let's keep experimenting, let's be continuously evolving individuals and musicians and do what is interesting to us, which is never what was interesting to us 5 years ago. You know, it's always going to be something new or something old that we hadn't been listening to.
Agreed.
And we are so grateful for you guys listening. Like the people that are still on this, 30 minutes in, or you're the reason. People like you are the reason we're able to have the freedom that we have, and we're so grateful for you. And if anything, time has just made us more grateful and have so much more gratitude for you guys that we have the best job in the world. We're the luckiest people in the world because of you and sharing this creative vision with us. We really just feel so honored to have you guys on the ride with us.
Yes, ditto to that. And I think maybe the most beautiful part of this band for me, like what I feel most grateful for, is we've been able to reach people from all over the world. And that has given me such a deep appreciation and changed the way that I live, I think, because I've experienced so many different cultures and seen the differences in people around the world, but also the similarities we share. The other day I was on a vacation with my kids and we were walking around and I'm really a homebody person. I'd actually say I'm a recluse to probably, and that's to a degree that's probably unhealthy. I really don't go out very often. And when I was out and about, I was getting stopped from different people, and it was I was at a place there were people from all over the world that had traveled there, and I was getting stopped from people from Argentina, and I was getting stopped from fans from Spain or from France, or it was just so incredible and reminded me of, wow, like we really have gotten to travel all over the world and meet people from all over the world, and our music has existed in so many different cultures and spheres and languages, and it's such a incredible thing that we don't take for granted, and we are just really like feel very fortunate, especially as we get older, to get to travel all over the world. um I know we're supposed to wrap it here, so I think there's probably a couple dates that I want to bring up one more time for people who are new to this. So Reflections, our new record, is out officially now, and it was written during the Smoke and Mirrors era, which was our second album to come out over 10 years ago. I think almost exactly 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And these are songs that were not on Smoke and Mirrors, but were written during that era. So demos that we're really proud to share with you now. And you can go to any of your places that you stream music and listen to it now. We also have a movie that is coming out that will play in theaters March 26th and 29th at places all over the world. And if you want to see if there's a location close to you, you go to imaginedragonsmovie.com and it'll automatically show you what the nearest location to you is. So tickets are available for that. And then lastly, we also are heading out on tour to Europe in the next few months here, and we will be playing all across Europe. So if you don't have tickets already and your city is not sold out, you should check imaginedragonsmusic.com for dates. And hopefully there's still some tickets available in the city near you. We look forward to seeing you around the world. We love you. We appreciate you. I hope you enjoy Reflections. And thank you for being on this journey with us as a band now for 15 years. We've grown up together, and that is such an incredible thing. And I hope to continue to grow up with you. And we love you
Love you
guys.
guys. Mwah.
Hi, thank you all for listening.